Hello, this is Jennifer Valentine-Miller with another radio show on this Saturday morning. This radio production tends to focus on a topic that is usually relevant for the month. Conversation that is just not talk, but a formation that sets itself along the lines of biblical principles. So welcome to Divine December, with the sun strengthening and the days are beginning to grow longer. For people throughout history and today, this month begins a time for feasting and celebrating. Christmas. Christmas comes just after the middle of winter. The Gospels do not mention the date of Jesus' birth. It was not until the 4th century AD that Pope Julius I set the 25th of December as the date for Christmas. This was an attempt to Christianize the pagan celebrations that already took place at the time of the year. By 529 AD, 25th of December had become a civic holiday, and by 567 AD, the 12 days from the 25th of December to the Epiphany were public holidays. Christmas is not only a Christian festival. The celebration has roots in the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. So what significance did feasts have in the life of Israel? And what is the role of similar celebrations in the life of the church today? The Jewish calendar was dominated by 3 main events over the year. That was Passover, which took place in the month of Nisan, which is modern March or April, weeks or the Feast of Harvest, which occurred in the month of Sivan or later May and early June, and Tabernacles for the Feast of Harvest, which occurred just after the Jewish New Year in the month of Tishri, which is our late September, early October. Each of these feasts has connections with the agricultural calendar of the early Israelites, and further connections with important events in the history of Israel. The Feast of Passover celebrates first and foremost the victory of God that allowed Israel to escape their slavery in Egypt. The feast commemorates the night when the angel of the Lord passed over the houses of Israel and took every firstborn from the Egyptians. The details of the feast are covered in several locations in the Pentateuch, which is in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The redemption retold is the family that gathers together to eat the Passover lamb and the unleavened bread. Remind us how the blood of the lamb kept the angel of death away from the Israelite households on the night of the Passover, and how the Israelites ate the unleavened bread when they made their departure from Egypt. The Exodus is the defining event of Israel's relationship with God. feasts have in the life of Israel? What is the role of similar celebrations in the life of the church today? In the New Testament, we find many motives and ideas from the Exodus event and Passover, in particular reapplied and interpreted in light of Christ. Paul can call Jesus Christ our Paschal or Passover. The Christian meal, the Eucharist or the Lord's Supper, takes in many of the themes and motives of the Passover supper. The supper Jesus offered to his disciples was a new agreement in the blood and body, just as the old Passover remembered the blood and sacrifice of the Passover lamb. The bread and wine of the Passover meal are now for Christians interpreted as symbols of the redemption offered through Christ, atoning death. The Feast of Weeks, which is found in Exodus, Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, celebrates the wheat harvest. In later times, this festival also became known as Pentecost, because it celebrated 50 days after the first Sabbath beginning Passover. This one-day festival was most clearly agricultural of all festivals. The Feast of Weeks or Pentecost celebrated the harvest and served as the time when the offering of the first fruits were brought to the temple. The feast included a meal for the poor, so that people were given the opportunity in the Feast of Weeks to share the bounty of harvest, both with God and with those of their needy neighbours. In Acts 2:1, on the day of Pentecost, the disciples were filled with the Spirit. The great missionary harvest of the church began with Peter's sermon on the Pentecost. In the modern Christian church, Pentecost has become a celebration of the week, of the work and person of the Holy Spirit. You're listening to the Jennifer Valentine-Miller Show, containing a selection of my chosen media items. If you would like to interact, please visit me at www.healingrelationstv.co.uk, where you'll find my social media platforms, or send me an email at contact@healingrelationstv.co.uk. Here is a quick Christmas fruitcake recipe. You will need 128 grams of dried fruit, including raisins, cranberries, cherries, apricot, currants and sultanas. 1 cup of red grape juice, and this is used instead of alcohol. Mix well and leave to rest for 2 hours. Now next, within another mixing bowl, add 1 cup of brown sugar, or 128 grams worth, half a cup, or 118 milliliters of warm water, 85 millimeters of sunflower oil, and you would have to blend that water mixture very well. Once done, with a sieve, add to the water mixture 2 cups of plain flour, or 272 grams, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of cinnamon powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of grounded nutmeg or grated, and a pinch of salt. On top of that, add half of orange rind and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract or essence. Blend well together until it is extremely smooth. Now when the 2 hours is up, you'll need to get your fruits bowl and add that to the first mixture. and you need to squeeze the fruits very well so the waters, drain out. And on top of that, you can also include a quarter gram of walnuts or almonds if you don't have a nut allergy. Now transfer that, once that's been mixed well, transfer it into a bread size baking tray or tin. Pat down the tin twice so that the mixture settles down, and place in an oven for 40 minutes at gas mark 4 at 180 degrees Celsius. Once cooked, test with a toothpick and then allow to cool it completely. Once that's done, then you can slice and serve.
What he said in his word, it is mine. I shall have what God has promised me. What he said in his word, it is mine. I shall have what God has promised me. What he said in his word, it is mine. I shall have God has promised me. What he said in his word, it is mine. I believe it is mine. I decree it is mine. I'm standing on the word that he said. I believe it is mine. I decree it is mine. Divine recovery is mine. Shall have what God has promised me. I'm walking by faith, not by sight. As I see his plans unfold for me, I decree by his word, it is mine. I believe it is mine. I decree it is mine. I'm standing on the word that he said. I decree it is mine. Divine recovery is mine. I believe it is mine. I decree it is mine. I'm standing on the word that he said.